Hello everyone and welcome to Helix Plays Games. My name is Richie and joining me this week is the return of at CyberChris 2077, Mr. Chris.
I'm back like a remastered game with added DLC.
Indeed, and also the chaotic neutral, Mr. Rob.
Hello.
So we've got a great show lined up for you this week. We'll be discussing Square Enix and Microsoft not getting along, what Koei Tecmo game do you want to see on GamePass, and Monster being the king of the frivolous lawsuit. All that and much, much more on this week's XPass. But before we get into it, make sure if you haven't already, you like the video, subscribe to the channel or your podcast feed of choice with notifications turned on so you're kept in the loop with all of great content here at Helix Plays Games, such as our other podcasts, Talking the PS, where we break down all the PlayStation news for you happening on the blue side of gaming, our upcoming new show, Lunar Listening, where we're going to delve into Amazon Luna's, all the news and everything to do with Amazon Luna. We haven't got a date for you yet. We've got a few wrinkles to sort out behind the scenes, get planned scheduling, just build that show, but it will happen soon in the next probably few weeks. We'll have more news than that for you. We have our live streams where this week I finally played Elden Ring.
You finally defeated Zhang Liang, did you just say?
No. I played a much superior game.
Shit. You're not wrong though.
Yeah.
What's your verdict, Richie? Are you going to become a Elden Ring fanatic, or
No.
is that it for you?
I did enjoy it more than I thought I was going to. Like, I thought I was just going to suffer for the entire time, but I generally actually did enjoy playing the game. To the point where after we finished streaming the next day, I went back and recorded another video, which is now up for members.
Helix Heroes, fill your boots.
Yeah.
So you're not going to go and get the platinum, the top achievement in
No.
Elden Ring then, do we not think?
Did you defeat any bosses out of interest? I wasn't on it, that's why I ask.
On the stream, I didn't. But I can announce that I have beaten one boss. Which is more bosses than you've
you have to be a member to get to prove it, to get confirmation.
Yeah, you take his word for it as it stands, unless you're a Helix Hero, and then there's evidence for you to go watch.
There is.
For the general
You
listening
make it sound a lot more
you
shady
have
than it actually is, but
defeated
that
no
is true.
bosses. You haven't defeated a single, like...
Yeah, but how many bosses have you
Souls-type
defeated in
boss.
Elden Ring?
You haven't. You can't prove it to the general audience. So.
I could just go into the back end of YouTube and just go push it.
You can go to the back end of wherever you want.
Which it'll go up live for non-members at some point. But I just sometimes when there's something a bit different, I just thought I'll give it to members first because they're awesome. So, what have you guys been playing, Chris?
The game of sleep versus being awake is the only game I'm playing. No, I've finished Hogwarts Legacy as of this morning, 8:30 in the morning. And
the earliest he's ever been awake.
It not ever awake, but definitely the earliest I've platinumed a game or played video games to like a serious extent. And I probably need something new to play. I've been dabbling a little bit in FIFA in between looking after baby, and I guess now I'm finished with the massive 60 hours that was Hogwarts Legacy. It's kind of like I feel like I need just a little bit of a palate cleanser, so probably a little smaller title now. So any recommendations, drop them in the chat, let me know. Might go back to Hi-Fi Rush, play some more of that. Don't want to commit anything too much. Jedi Survivor is just around the corner, so...
I mean, we've got Ghostwire Tokyo dropping this week.
We do.
So do you see your gaming kind of... like the choices of what you play changing now? Like you've kind of got like a baby to take care of. Are you going to like gravitate to less kind of immersive titles? Because obviously like there's the ever-present need to parent, or what do you think is going to happen for you?
I think naturally, as I've got older, I'm not as kind of, like we've said many times at the show, we're not really drawn towards the Call of Duties and stuff, the online multiplayer stuff. So the benefit of playing single player offline technically offline games is I can pause it and I can save it at any point. So I feel like the games I'm traditionally going to play, like Jedi Survivor and whatever the next Naughty Dog game is, whatever the next Insomniac game, like Spider-Man later this year, hopefully, like those type of games, they're not really beholden to being online or time-limited matches. Ironically, even FIFA, which is a time-limited match, like I can pause that or drop out at any moment per match and it doesn't really impact my day. So I don't think it's going to change that much. Obviously, the amount of time I can play is going to be limited. A lot of the time, I'm either just too tired, can't be asked, and like just sticking the TV on is so much easier. And the way you just have to like sit. I've got this great routine where she sits on my chest, and I just kind of cup her whilst also playing the controller. Scared the shit out of her a few times with Hogwarts Legacy when you do the spells and it comes out of the speaker really loud. And there is, as far as I can tell, there is no way of reducing the volume on that speaker. So the game's like quite muted. I've got the volume quite low because it's like 2 a.m. or something. But then it'll go like Flipendo, and like, literally like baby almost like Flipendo's out my arms. It's like calm down, calm down. Yeah, it's just a game. But yeah, I don't think my habits will change too much. Just probably the time I have. But I don't know, Rob. Further down the line, I might lean more into maybe just more casual games, like nothing mindless games. But I guess FIFA's there for me right now for that.
I could see you giving up on more platinums instead of like going right now. You've just got the platinum for Hogwarts Legacy. I think I could see you of just like abandoning that attempt. Like,
yeah, well, thankfully playing Xbox and getting GamePass is up, and then prior to that, Stadia and Luna now is having all these like libraries of games. I'm not as kind of hard drilled into needing to get the platinum as I was before. Hogwarts Legacy was actually my first one of the year, which, tracking my history, I'm very much behind pace. I think we're in beginning of April, and I'm on 1. Whereas in previous years, I think I was on probably like 2 or 3 by now. Maybe like it's usually 1 a month is my average. Well behind, but I also don't care. So we've got other priorities. So yeah, I'll just enjoy the games as they come and go. And yeah, that's what you do. Enjoy, play wherever makes you the happiest. After all,
indeed. Rob, what have you been playing?
Just more Resident Evil. Every single kind of gaming minute I have is in that game, and like I'm not like you at all, Chris. Like I will just play a game as until like I get my enjoyment out of it. There's nothing kind of trophy hunting for me in a game, except for Resident Evil 4 apparently, because there's a mechanic in it where you collect kind of like valuable items, and you can put gemstones in them to like increase the value, and you get bonuses for certain combinations. I'm getting like super into that at the moment. So yeah, I'm like going every single nook and cranny, every single kind of tiny area. It's all getting kind of explored fully, and I'm loving it.
Isn't it all this kind of talk that makes people who aren't gamers think what sad people we are? we're talking digital, like trying to just like you explaining that was like you get these gem things, then attach them to these things, and you searching nooks and crannies, and like as someone who's just got 100 and whatever 44 collectibles on like a random world map, I'm literally going from A to B using a guide on YouTube to try and find this like butterfly chest that's hidden somewhere. And like if you said that to someone who doesn't game, like I just sit and watch Netflix and watch like characters and stories unfold, and we're like, no, I will go to the farthest ends of this virtual earth to find a small item that was once hidden in the original game, but for the remastered version they've changed it slightly, so I have to see what it looks like. Oh, we're crazy.
Yeah, it's like when you think about it, it's like, you wandered the countryside in this game to find a magic piece of paper. Yeah, what did the paper say? It's like, I don't know, I didn't read it.
I didn't read it. I just added it to the inventory and moved on.
It went in the inventory. That's it. It's like I've got it now. It's like, but what's its purpose? Oh, it's there to give you some information about the world. But you didn't read it. No, I collected it.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know what? If it makes you happy, if you get enjoyment out of it, then that's the best. That's the biggest part. How about you, Richie?
As I said, Elden Ring and Octopath Traveler 2, which very much enjoying. I've got about 30 hours in Octopath 2 already.
Wait, you had like 15 last week.
Yeah,
he's got a long week. He's had a long weekend.
Well, it's a bank holiday weekend. We're recording on Saturday. Pretty much yesterday, on the morning I played Elden Ring, and on the afternoon and evening I played Octopath. That was kind of my day. It was a good day, to be fair. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, not a bad day.
Oh, yeah.
It's your Easter weekend, like this Easter Sunday and Monday, just going to be sit down eating chocolate eggs and playing Octopath Traveler then?
I don't have any chocolate, but largely, yeah. I think I'm going to get to the gym over this weekend because I need to. Like, I decided like Friday, right? I've got a day off. I'm just going to be a slob. It's just a slob day. I'm probably basically not going to get dressed unless I need to leave the house. I'm just going to play games. But you can't do that for 4 days straight. Like, but yeah. Occasionally you need to move. You need to touch grass.
You need to go out and find secret notes hidden in the real world.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, if you went and found like a random alley and dug around a little bit, you would probably find a random scrap of paper that also means nothing to your life, but you could keep it and put it in a drawer at home.
You could put it in your real life field guide, and then you could put it on a shelf and never look at it.
And people will think you're equally as crazy.
Yeah. And then when you're
like teenage young boys, but it was like hedge bookshelf as opposed to anything collectible.
Well, I remember, Rob, fun story when you had a paper round back in the day. You just talking about finding random pieces of paper stashed away. You literally hid about 30 papers in a bag in a forested area near my house because you couldn't be bothered to deliver them. So someone out there walking around taking their dog for a walk would have discovered 30 newspapers perfectly preserved in a plastic bag in a dodgy, shady area.
For context to this, right? Like, it wasn't my usual round, and the street it was for was like the longest street in town, and the houses didn't line up. Like, it wasn't like 2, 4, 6, 8, and then 1, 3, 5, 7 on one side. It was weird, so I just dumped them all and then went home and played Tomb Raider 2.
That sounds like a perfect trade-off. And do you still have this job?
Yes. Yeah, I'm 3 years old. Are you still a paper boy?
Funnily enough, I didn't last.
He's a paper man, Richie. Get it right.
No, paper boy.
The paper boy man becomes a paper man.
It's evolution. But, random things in random worlds.
Yeah, I think that's enough of that. Chris, would you like to introduce us to the...
Yeah, let me just find my newspaper. The excellently exuberant, excavated Xbox expose, a.k.a. The News!
The News. And as always, our news is brought to you by Helix Heroes, which you can join for as little as 99 pence, which gives you early access to some of our shows, such as me in Elden Ring, and I don't know where I was going there, my mind went blank for briefly, and custom emojis, and Rob's undying love.
All for less than a newspaper.
Yeah. I don't even know how much newspapers cost nowadays.
Those Let us know in the comments. £1.
I'd reckon so, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, actually. Do you remember, did they always just used to be like 30p or something?
But also, who would deliver them?
Who would buy them?
You don't have newsagents anymore.
Yeah. That's true, actually. I never even realised that.
Yeah, see? Yeah. I keep my ear close to the ground of the newspaper delivery world, just in case.
Because you're just worried they're still after you.
He's looking for a new gig. ID at Xbox April Showcase. Let's get into it. So there was an ID at Xbox April Showcase, brought down some indie games. So what I'm going to do is I'll read through the list of games, and we can just dive into whichever ones you feel like talking about. So we got another look at Cassette Beasts, which is dropping on PC Game Pass on April the 26th. Omega Strikers is a free-to-play sports game, launches on April the 27th on Xbox. The Carters with a K, Turbocharged 2, brings its Mario Kart clone to Xbox in 2023. Another look at Coffee Talk Episode 2, which will come to Game Pass on April the 20th. Homestead Arcana gets a release date for April the 21st. Slice of Life Sim Closer the Distance is coming soon to Xbox. Semi-open fantasy FPS The Explorator comes to Xbox. Little Guardsman is revealed for Xbox. A Papers, Please inspired narrative puzzle. A new trailer for folklore adventure game Cabaret, which will be launched earlier this week. And combat presentation for The Last Case of Benedict Fox, which comes out on the 27th of April for Game Pass. And there was also an interview with the devs of Vampire Survivors, who recently won a BAFTA.
So I think I'm looking most forward to Cassette Beasts.
Cassette Beasts.
It's like a free to play game. Well, for me anyway, on Game Pass. Looks like a natural kind of successor for those kind of like beat 'em up style games that have been popular for a long time. No, wait, I've completely fucked that up.
Cassette Beast is the Pokemon clone.
Yeah, Richie, you're gonna have to completely cut that bit out because I got completely wrong.
Which
Cool.
is the beat 'em up one you're looking forward to, Rob?
I can't remember now. Evidently, I forgot the name of it, but never mind. No, more accurately, no. So move on to somebody else.
I think Cassette Beast looks great. It looks like Pokemon with some kind of like musical nuances to it, just by the nature of it's themed along with cassettes. But it looks interesting, it looks fun, it looks colourful. It's got that kind of art style that's very reminiscent of older like DS Pokemon games. And open world adventure, combine the two monsters using Cassette Beast's fusion system, which sounds like a way of just kind of like Digimon evolving them into two. But other than that, it's like a slim list. I know the Last Case of Benedict Fox is supposed to be really good. But other than the rest of them don't really tick any boxes for me. Great that most of them are coming to Game Pass. Coffee Talk Episode 2 and stuff. Homestead Arcana looks fun. It almost reminds me actually a little bit of Tchaya that I had a look at on the channel last month. Last month? Yeah, that's about right. But other than that, it's just a slim indie showcase for me. Nothing coming popping off the page as much as I'd have hoped.
Yeah,
how about you, Richie?
I'm exactly the same. I think for me, Cassette Beast is the pick of the bunch. My main issue with Cassette Beast is I almost have this distinct feeling that if I was playing it, it'd almost be rather playing Pokemon. And I basically have access to every single Pokemon game, so it's like, I hope it does well, but it'd have to do something really special to kind of... It just wouldn't have the magic, because let's be fair, the mechanics of Pokemon aren't that complex. So it's more the magic of that world and growing up with it that kind of keeps me coming back. Where I'm not sure Cassette Beast will have that kind of same... It's hooks in me the same way.
It must be so hard to come up with like a new concept for turn-based RPGs now. Like, you're really enjoying Octopath, and it's just like, I'm guessing it's still 8 characters who just go on an adventure together.
Pretty much, yeah. Like every character, Octopath, you have this 8 characters spread across the world. Each character has its own story. So rather than being one main story that you're telling, there's 8.
Yeah. Whereas anything in this one, like Cassette Beast, it just looks... It's always going to be compared to Pokemon, but that doesn't mean it's any worse. Just look at how good like Genshin Impact's doing at the moment as well. So there's always space for them, and it looks like the most interesting out of the few for me.
I do feel like I could lose my Xbox for like a month to my girlfriend with Homestead Arcana. It's kind of like it looks to me like a Harvest Moon with witches and cats and kind of crystals and shit in. So there's a big risk of me losing my Xbox for a while on that title, I'll have to say.
Yeah, it's almost got like a Zelda art style as well.
Yeah, it
heavily inspired.
It does have that kind of like Breath of the Wild era Zelda. It's like Fortnite-y kind of art style. But just, Robert, if you lose your Xbox, you could just play God of War Ragnarok.
Yeah, that's the good thing about having 2 consoles. But no, actually, because then she's also just pre-ordered Jedi Survivor as well. So
on PlayStation.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
So who knows what I'm going to be losing? I might just go back to Valheim on PC.
No, she's like, well, I'm playing Homestead Arcana and Jedi Survivor, so Rob, you're not allowed to play anything.
back to Red Alert 2.
You could play Cassette Beast on PC.
I'm fine.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on then to the Ryse. Ryse, Son of Rome. So Crytek asks about Ryse, Son of Rome gets a huge response from Xbox fans. Have either of you played Ryse, Son of Rome?
I have.
No. Oh, and
it was pretty good. So, like, what console was it? Would it be the Xbox One?
It was the Xbox One launch title.
Yeah, it was a launch title for the Xbox One, and I remember very distinctly it was one of the few launch titles that actually was out at the time. It got bundled with basically every single Xbox One as far as I I remember. It's a great little kind of combat game. Graphically, it was fantastic because obviously it was a step up to the like the Xbox One. So for its time, it was like a beautiful looking game. You always get like those launch games always have like lack a bit of depth to them because they are kind of designed to be launch titles and like the more
focus on making it look very pretty rather than a great game.
Yeah, like the graphics like showcases as opposed to kind of, I guess, fully fleshed out titles as lots of games are. But like combat was fantastic in it, and obviously it looked beautiful. And by the looks of it, everyone's kind of eager to see it back in some form, not necessarily a sequel, but a kind of a remaster or something.
It's almost garnered like a cult following, and I think a lot of it was overshadowed by the disappointing launch of the Xbox One, just in general. And there's a few games that stand out. So again, my own and Richie's first Xbox was the Series S that we bought with All Access recently. So there's a lot of all the titles that I definitively remember. And when it was the PS4 and the Xbox going kind of toe-to-toe with their new launch kind of catalogs and what were the bells and whistles to convince gamers to buy into them, this was, as Rob said, the kind of bundle pack-in, go play this. And I remember watching footage of it, the fight scenes in the Colosseums, and thinking like, look, gladiators are cool. I'm big into kind of my Roman history, so that ticks the boxes for me. But I was always going to get a PlayStation. But with my limited funding at the time, I was always going to get a PS4. This came out the same year as The Last of Us, and there's something to be said watching the trailer now, just like games of that era onwards. I think this game still looks fantastic. It actually gives me big visual vibes of the Order 1886. In terms of like everything's got like there's a certain polish to it which looks very, very similar. And even like watching it now, I would quite happily play this game. And like I said, it had like middling reviews, but it looked fun to play. And the concept is, I think over time, it's only maybe garnered more love. And now Xbox players are like still clambering for like, what is that next game? What is that next big title? While Halo's floundering, we don't know what Gears is doing. Fable's evidently always in the works. The Forza games will come and go, but it's still just a racing game every year. Like, what is that next big Xbox thing? I'd love them to give Ryse another crack of the whip. Although I wish they did spell it just Ryse. The Y in there really does annoy me.
Do you think it's just one of them, like The Order, where it's actually a good game, but didn't quite land the way people wanted to? Where I think with The Order, the biggest criticism I always saw was it's too short.
Yeah.
And then it got a load of criticism around that, where it's actually a phenomenal game. And then Sony just kind of went, we're not doing that anymore, which is the wrong decision.
It's a massive shame.
Ryse, like, with Ryse on the Rome, is it one of them games where actually the first game didn't quite land the way people wanted to? It's a good game, but people could see there's more to come from it. There's more to come from this franchise, and it's a shame that it's kind of been put on hiatus for a decade.
Absolutely. It's, again, exactly the same as the Order 86, where I feel like the worlds, like visually these games look great. They clearly had success, and I feel like they would both have benefited from a sequel. Like Assassin's Creed 1 to Assassin's Creed 2. 100%. I feel like a sequel to Rise Son of Rome, Fall of Caesar, or whatever the hell you want to subtitle it with, would be a lot better in every way, shape, or form. Just like the Order 86, if that got a sequel, it would, because the world was great with the Lycans and the wolves and everything like that. It would have been more of that, and visually it still holds up today, so it's just a shame. So yeah, if Crytek want to get on something, and let's face it, Crytek haven't really had any smash hits themselves, what is any worse than either trying to launch a new IP or going back to something that maybe has a bit of a cult following now and building on that and maybe like hitting gold with it?
Yeah, and the thing is, most people will have played it from that era as well because of how bundled it was.
And now it's on Game Pass, even more will. Because they'll at least check it out, right? So you've got a better platform probably than you had back in the day when no one bought an Xbox One.
Yeah, maybe it's one of them situations where because we've had enough time now, probably too much time since the game came out, if they try to do a Rise 2 immediately, it might have been like when the criticism of the game was still fresh in people's minds, about what they didn't like would have like maybe struggled. Where now, because it's had time to just move beyond that, people can go with like cool heads and go, actually, there's a lot of good there. There's still some problems, but if you took this and then you could elevate it again, you could be something really cool. But Chris, how awesome would be an Order like HBO series?
Oh, again, the world's fantastic. It just
it's just as you were talking, it's like, oh, that'd be amazing. Like that IP as like a HBO like show.
I enjoyed the Order 1886 so much. I actually went out and bought the special edition one that comes with like the little vial necklace thing. because it was a lot cheaper, and because no one really talks about it, it's like surprisingly cheap, even though it's a collector's edition one. So I already had it, and I enjoyed it that much because the world's just great. And if you play it today, it just holds up, and that's why, again, visually looking at this, looking at Ryse, you know, I was saying about I needed a game to fill that 2-week gap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think this might just pique my interest now, because it can't be that long, right? That was one of its criticisms, is like the order, it wasn't over long. So if you're out there watching, if you think I should check out Ryse Son of Rome, let me know in the comments, and that might well fill the void for the next fortnight.
Indeed.
Very easy to put it, like, pick up and put down as well.
Yeah. Let's move on now to Resident Evil 4: The Mercenaries DLC. Rob, you've been playing it.
I have, yeah, and I'm absolutely loving it. As I've talked about basically for the past 3 weeks, I think, like, I have nothing bad to say about Resident Evil 4, and the Mercenaries mode is just like an extra little kind of bite of the cherry, which is a lot kind of more fun because you can play with like lots of kind of historical characters and lots of kind of people outside the main narrative. Yeah, it's just a bunch of hard mode fun, and I think it'll have legs for me for a long, long time. Trying to get like it works on like the C, B, A kind of S plus rank system, so I can see myself going back to it a lot to kind of get those achievements.
Can you play as people from previous games? So like, can you run around as Mr. X, or is it like limited to just Resident Evil 4?
I've only played, like, my favourite character of the entire series is a guy called Hunk, who's like this like mysterious kind of guy who just like always wears a respirator mask and is just like OP. He's a guy like the lone survivor guy. So I've only played as him so far, so I haven't actually checked out the full character roster yet. But there's like favourites kind of like Ada Wong's in it, Chris is in it and stuff like that. So there's plenty of choice.
Hunk looks like one of the guys from Killzone. All the bad guys from there.
Yeah, his entire canon is like he's the only one that survives any mission. Like anytime when there's like a tactical like umbrella group that gets wiped out, he just always survives. And then there's a mode in Resident Evil 2 which is like the extreme kind of difficulty mode where it's just him having to escape, and like you get fully kitted out with all like the weapons, and you just have to like escape like the sewer area, and that's like a really popular mode as well.
Does he survive all the time because he's the only one who keeps his tactical gas mask on, and everyone else takes it off and then?
No, it's just because like he's just a gigantic badass. That's the only reason.
That'll help.
And so his inventory gets lots of additional ammo compared to Leon in Resident Evil 2 as well.
Ammo is always a problem for me in those games. Have you dabbled in any of the microtransactions that have popped up in the game this week?
Not really. They don't exactly like interfere with the game like significantly, and I've never been against microtransactions. I'm against like ones that break mechanics, and these ones really don't. And it's maybe I'm blinkered because I love the game so much, but I don't think they're a problem.
But for me, again, I'm not against microtransactions either. I don't like them when they're quite predatory or the game intentionally breaks itself to force you into it. But if the game works fine and you're getting enough enjoyment out of it and you don't feel like the grind is ridiculous, that you feel the need to buy stuff, then I have no real problems with them being there.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't like pay to win in a multiplayer competitive situation, because I think in a competitive multiplayer situation, I think it should be a level playing field. And so then it comes down to skill rather than I've unlocked the better gear with my mum's credit card, so that means I can beat you.
Yeah, for context, one of the main things that's in there is the there's like a weapon upgrade system in there. So like you'll collect money and you'll collect jewels which you can sell and stuff, and then you can upgrade your weapon to be more powerful in single player. Once you've kind of fully upgraded the weapon, there's an extra final upgrade you can do, which essentially kind of breaks a weapon in lots of ways and makes it super powerful. You can buy those tokens like as DLC, but it's single player. If you want to like break the game on your own,
if you want to ruin the game for yourself,
like I'm not whatever.
It's almost like
that's fine.
If I could have just pulled out a credit card to get past the first boss in Elden Ring.
You mean
like,
what's the point?
Yeah, but when it comes to me with microtransactions, I don't necessarily think they're evil. I don't think they should be in games aimed at children. I think microtransactions being in a game should immediately give it an 18+ rating.
Yeah, like a gambling.
Yeah, because then it could be it could be Peppa Pig, but if you put microtransactions in there, then the assumption is that whoever's playing this game should have the ability to buy stuff, which means they probably need to be job, which means they're an adult. Therefore, 18 rating.
Yeah, if you want the Peppa Pig crackling skin, you need to pay £2.40.
That went dark. That went really dark.
It doesn't bother me microtransactions being added. I think they're getting a bit of flack because it was added after the fact. So the game came out, got reviewed, everyone played through it, enjoyed it, 10 out of 10s, Game of the Year nominations, and then they add them in later. Again, they're not really that bad because they don't impact the whole game, but I think it's adding content that impacts the gameplay after the game's been reviewed is kind of like a sneaky practice, but I think to us as average gamers and consumers, like you said, I don't need it and it's there if I want it. So
if they haven't changed the way the game plays and they've just added something else, then I don't see the problem there, because the game that was reviewed still exists.
Yeah, I think the trouble is that there's no room for nuance in the transactions debate. Like with gamers, is that it's like microtransactions bad, and then like if any hint of microtransactions comes out, like you've got some very, very loud corner of the internet screeching about it.
This is one of the advantages of podcasting. It gives you a bit more room, rather than say Twitter, to actually go into the nuance and explain, talk about things in detail, and not you got 20 characters to summarize your views, which people will misinterpret.
Yeah. It's the Assassin's Creed games, got them like Origins and all this stuff for buying your packs. But like, I got the Platinum in all those games, and even though the options were to buy Ubisoft points, spend them on, or Animus points, whatever they're called, and like rank up quicker, I finished that game without ever feeling the need to go do it. I think if it gets predatory to a point where the grind is so painful that it's almost like funneling you towards buying like XP boosters and stuff, or top gear, then yes. But I think if you can finish the game regardless of that, and then you just want to maybe treat yourself to like a unicorn outfit or something, then knock yourself out. But I think it is over-exaggerating. You're totally right, Rob, when as soon as the word microtransaction comes into it, you default to the worst ever. Similar to like Battlefront 2 and Shadow of War, both got heavily criticised for their microtransactions. And again, finished both those games, didn't spend a penny more than just buying the game, but they have such this negative impact on them because of by proxy of that word microtransaction. And unfortunately, probably killed the franchises because we haven't seen it follow up to either of those.
No.
They're both fantastic, so who knows?
Who knows indeed. Moving on now, apparently everything's not happy between Square and Xbox. So Windows Central Editor, Jez Corden, has penned an article which, quoting from it, increasingly I've been hearing rumours that there is something fundamentally wrong with the relationship between Microsoft and Square Enix. Which, okay. And for a bit of context, like I'm currently playing Octopath Traveler 2. I am playing it on the Switch. That is not on Xbox, but is on PlayStation, despite Octopath Traveler 1 being on Xbox and recently being pulled from GamePass, actually.
And it was on Google Stadia.
It was indeed.
Which is so random that it was there and not there. But this has kind of been going on for a while, hasn't it? This odd, like Square Enix selling half their properties off to Embracer Group and the studios, and then they close certain things down. They're never happy with their investor reports on how games are sold. Like, look at Forspoken. It was always destined to be a bad experience. And then they make exclusive deals with PlayStation all the time, but then they go and bring certain remasters and remakes over to Xbox. It just seems like they can't... It's almost like they have a mood swing. Every other game or every other IP or property, they're like, yeah, okay, we're totally down to play ball. And then another month later, they're like, now we hate you. Fuck off. Like, we don't want anything to do with you. And it's just like, is this down to them? Like, we keep speculating that they're about to be bought and they're not going to make deals that go maybe beyond a potential Sony acquisition or potential a different acquisition. We'll never know really until like the dice lands. But
Do you think
It's odd.
that any like problems in the relationship between Square and Xbox are down to because like Square keeps giving exclusivity deals to Sony, or do you think they're giving exclusivity deals to Sony because of the relationship? Like, I'm trying to figure out which is kind of the cause and which one's the effect.
It's almost weird because it's like Square Enix are dating two people at the same time, and they don't want the other one to find out about them, but they all have the suspicions, and there's this weird thing where, why are they so picky and choosy? Because surely one of them offers money, and then one of them goes, yeah, we'll port the game, or we'll market the game, but I just think Square is so heavily in Sony's camp, and they have been for years at this point. I'm just surprised anything shows up on
an on-and-off relationship
Xbox.
with Nintendo as well, so like...
Yeah. It's so weird. It's so weird. I don't understand as a business why they wouldn't just play ball with it. But I don't know who's to blame necessarily. But we've said time and time again, like Xbox has been starved of JRPGs and this kind of content for some time. And we thought they were starting to mend bridges, but seemingly from what Jez and some of the Microsoft inner circle people are hearing, that it might not be all cozy still.
Yeah, I guess it's just how dominant like PlayStation is in like especially Japan, but like other kind of Southeast Asian markets, isn't it? Like, it's not as important for like a company so kind of embedded in that culture to pander to Microsoft. So, you know, whereas like a lot of different kind of publishers need to like kind of play that balance a bit. I don't think Square Enix in their head needed to as much. So like it's just like a relationship that hasn't really developed. And
do you think it's almost like a weird sense of nationalism creeping into the culture, where actually they're more happy to work with the Japanese-based like platform holders like Sony and the other one, Nintendo, where they're looking at Xbox and going, well, actually, our games don't sell as well on Xbox when we do bring them compared to the other. Like, they've pretty much jettisoned their Western IPs anyway. It seems to be a weird move where Square is becoming more Japanese, really, as a company again. Yeah,
well, what was that game that they blamed Microsoft and Xbox on for like the poor performance? I can't remember. I think it was
it Outriders?
Maybe, or it might have been one of the Tomb Raider games.
Because it was Square Enix published Outriders, but they didn't pay out.
Shadow or Rise of the Tomb Raider was one of them originally an Xbox console exclusive.
Yeah, Ryse was exclusive for 1 year, which fucked over the sales of it because everyone was like Tomb Raider was a PlayStation icon essentially, and like people like me had to wait a whole year to play it, and it just annoyed everyone.
I still haven't played Shadow.
It's such a good game. They're all good games.
I've played Ryse. I've played Ryse. I haven't played Shadow.
But I mean, it's interesting, like looking at it from our point of view, like quite neutral, being from the UK. But there could be something nationalistic about it as well. Where, like, let's face it, like Microsoft would rather trade with someone like Google, you would imagine, or Apple, than Tencent. Just by proxy of like the legalities around it and like the government protocols you've got to go through to trade now. It could be obviously not as like red tape ridden, because it's again, Japan and America have a fantastic relationship, but like you said, it just must be easy to just go to Sony, go to Nintendo, and like everyone's for lack of a better term, local. Like they're all based in and around the same thing, and like you said, they've got the same cultures and like
a small
ideals.
industry in terms of the people involved.
Oh, 100%. Jeff Keighley runs the whole damn show, apparently. But yeah,
they do have very different, like, Japanese kind of business, like, kind of etiquette is very, very different from like Western business etiquette. And fair enough, like those lines have started blurring a lot more, you know, the past couple of decades. But you know, before that, it definitely wasn't a perfect match between kind of, you know, etiquette and things like that. So that probably plays a big part in it as well. I can't remember who it was, but there was an American guy brought in to like overhaul one of the Japanese car manufacturers. And he started doing things like the Western way, and like immediately started getting death threats and stuff. So, like, it is two very different ways of kind of running companies and managing relationships and stuff like that.
I mean, they need to basically hash it out and get it fixed, because it benefits both companies that it's on Xbox. The reality is, though, I really do just suspect that Square Enix is still primed for sale at some point, and I don't know whether the Activision deal goes through and then this follows shortly after.
I think the only thing that might be holding up any like Sony buy-in Square Enix is Nintendo.
Potentially, yeah.
It's one of them I couldn't see. Like Nintendo would have serious issues with Sony buying Square Enix. So I wouldn't be surprised if behind closed doors, like Sony and Nintendo sat down and went, neither of us will buy Square Enix. We're happy to do exclusivity, do what we're doing, get as close to buying as we possibly can without kind of upsetting each other.
Yeah, there is an insular element of like, what if Square Enix is just, again, when you're saying about like where they're based and stuff and cultural stuff, maybe they're just not happy Microsoft is swooping in and buying Activision for shit tons of money. Like, they could. Or
maybe they were going to buy Square.
Yeah, like you've almost like jilted us at the altar. Like, we were in discussions and we were starting to bring games over to Xbox, and you were going to possibly buy us. We sold our Western division to Embracer like you told us to, and then you've gone and just shafted us royally by buying Activision. What the hell, Xbox? You're getting nothing.
The thing is, there probably is a lot to it. Maybe Square Enix were looking at Microsoft as to buy the stuff that Embracer bought. And then maybe that fell through. There could be a lot of stuff kind of like that. Maybe that's fell through because of Activision. Because of the Activision Blizzard deal, where Microsoft turned their attention over there because they see as more lucrative. And then it's just left Square like... There's probably a lot... It's probably not a single thing that's causing this kind of fraction in the relationship. It's probably a number of stuff.
It does feel like a Telltale game where it's like... Square Enix will remember that.
Well, and like a Telltale game, we'll never see it finished because it's episodic.
Inevitably, it all goes back to the same narrative of just like Embracer buying literally everything.
Clementine.
Yeah. But Ghostwire Tokyo is out this week. So April the 12th it comes out on console, PC, and cloud. On Xbox. It's already been out on PlayStation for almost a year.
Exclusive.
Chris? Yeah, formerly exclusive. It's not exclusive anymore. Or at least it won't be
until this week.
Yeah. Any thoughts?
No, this is my similar trope of Arcane / Bethesda style games where it looks fun. I like the concept. When I look at the gameplay, I just go, eh. Like, there is just something like Prey, like Deathloop, it just doesn't do. There's something that's not ticking a box for me where I don't even want to check. Like, if we look at like something similar that came out recently, we looked at Atomic Heart. Atomic Heart was like, oh yeah, that looks awesome. It's a first-person shooter, crazy world, action adventure, looks fun. This is the exact same premise, and I just look at it and go, no. It's so weird how some games just artistically or creatively just get you straight away, get the hooks in, and others you just fob off. And I don't know, it just does not do anything for me.
Yeah, so this is it's developed by, make sure I get it right this time, this is developed by Tango Gameworks and it's published by Bethesda.
Japanese studio as well, Tango Gameworks. Just off what we were saying with Square Enix, it's Microsoft's only Japanese studio.
Yeah.
Just as a side note.
I'm kind of with you. There's something about games like that are currently being published by ZeniMax and Bethesda and that kind of grouping of publishers that they always look like good games. But I always get the impression that I'd enjoy it for an evening, but then I'd probably not go back. So that's why I've just kind of never, like, digging into them. So I don't know what it is about, like, I played Deathloop for one evening, and then went, okay, it's fine, it's good, I enjoyed what I played, but, you know, in a game, you just don't have that drive to come back, and... I don't know what it is. Maybe I think we're probably prejudging it, but I don't know. There's something about it that it's not drawing me in.
There is that visual thing I was saying. So I've just checked the Void engine, which Ghostwire Tokyo's made in. It's the same engine that make Deathloop and Dishonored in. So maybe I just don't like this engine. There's something about it that just, I think, being spoiled on PlayStation first party games, it just doesn't hold up to something that my brain is looking for. Because it is weird that every one of these I look at alongside the Fallout and the Skyrims, I just go, weird.
I'm the same. Like, it just doesn't seem to have a strong narrative for me to kind of jump into, which is probably completely unfair.
Yeah. But it feels like the sort of game I would have loved in the Xbox 360 era.
Yeah. I think
it's got like a horror vibe. Like, it's got that like a neon cyberpunk aesthetic as well. It's got almost like a Slender Man aesthetic
cool,
to it,
like
which
magic
all
mechanics.
tick, 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 and I watched the gameplay and just go. But you know what? With it coming to Game Pass, I didn't even think twice about it on PlayStation last year. So maybe now it's there to try and check out. I'd play it, but part of me thinks I'd rather just go play Atomic Heart again or BioShock for like that type of first-person fix, or Wolfenstein. Like, there's just so many more things that, unfortunately, the similar thing with Dishonored and Prey, where they don't hit that, I would say, AAA quality. And I worry sometimes for Redfall for like a similar thing. It's just that little bar below where I set my expectations now, and it doesn't.
Yeah,
it leaves a void.
It gets described a lot as like a solid 8 out of 10, and I think the place we're all in as gamers now is that time is the most valuable like element, and 8 out of 10 just doesn't really cut it compared to what else is out there.
I'd say Hogwarts Legacy is probably an 8 out of 10 with like come out the other side of it. However, it does have the Harry Potter IP, which is what elevates it, in my opinion, to a 9. Mm-hmm. Where if you remove that IP, then, which is effectively what we're kind of talking about here, Ghostwire Tokyo doesn't really have that IP to kind of draw you in. Hogwarts Legacy would fall down mechanically to probably a low 8.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
But then that comes back to the great thing with Game Pass is
you can try it.
You can just try it, and if the first kind of opening hour or so really gets you, then fantastic, you've got the whole game to play. And like Rob was saying, I think Metacritic it's at 75, user score 8.6, so it's a good, if not great, game by all standards. So let us know if you're going to be checking it out this week.
But you know what, Chris and Rob, you do like Koei Tecmo games, don't you?
I like a specific franchise of Koei Tecmo games.
Yeah. What Koei Tecmo game would you want to see come to Game Pass?
Every single Dynasty Warriors.
And Empires and Samurai Warriors. And to do a Gundam one as well, like a Gundam Warriors.
Yeah,
or something.
Was it Gundam Warriors or Dynasty Warriors Gundam or something?
It's basically any IP, apply it to the Dynasty Warriors skin, and you could like take the Ninja Turtles and apply them to Dynasty Warriors, and I would quite happily run around as those four in Shredder and just hack and slash at random enemies, and then occasionally face Bebop or someone as a solo boss fight, and then set it in New York, and you're no winner already. So just the whole library, just make a deal with them. You're not getting Square Enix, Microsoft, so just hash out a deal with Koei Tecmo, bring them across as well.
Yeah.
So
Koei Tecmo are like the most kind of like most guarded custodians of their titles, are they? Like they'll like they don't care too much.
They'll do it. Yeah, you wouldn't get Neo or anything because they're PlayStation exclusives from Team Ninja, but I think everything else is up for grabs. So just again, flesh out that library with some great kind of AA titles.
But Neo 2 wasn't published by PlayStation. It was published by Koei Tecmo and developed by Team Ninja, so that could come across.
If it wasn't a timed exclusive, depending on what the deal was specifically, then yeah.
Yeah, so Neo, I wouldn't take Neo off the table in terms of, like, because this has come about from a new Warlong Focus survey. It's one of the questions, and so I wouldn't be surprised if something like Neo could make its way across. But I think the biggest answer is definitely like the Dynasty Warriors franchise.
Yeah, I don't know how problematic it would be to bring the Dead or Alive franchise to Game Pass, considering like the physics mechanics in those games.
It's smut.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like that's a problematic franchise.
Dead or Alive is one of them franchises where it keeps going, but it probably should be cancelled in this day and age. But it's almost doing, I think it's in a weird way, it's almost doing like the South Park thing where it's kind of got this level of immunity because everyone knows what it is.
Yeah.
And because everyone knows what it is, everyone just kind of goes, well, that's what Dead or Alive is. If it was a new franchise, it would not stand, but because it's existing, it just seems to be able to get a pass.
Yeah, it's like it's your problematic granddad who has certain set in stone principles which don't move with the times.
Is that what you call them, Rob? They're definitely not set in stone, the principles of some of these characters. Oh yeah, well, that's Koei Tecmo. Sorry, just Let's move on. Shall we have a bit of a rant about Monster to wrap up the show?
Don't say that word, otherwise we might be sued.
I know we just got copyright claimed 9 times for that, Richie. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, we're more likely to get cancelled for talking about this story than Koei Tecmo is for producing Dead or Alive.
Good luck trying to cancel us on a free platform who don't take any wage or anything.
Yeah.
We just start up again.
Yeah. So this is the news story that Monster Energy Drink, let's be fair, they're being a bunch of dickheads. Like, yes, Chris is holding up a can of Monster for audio listeners. I had one during recording of Talking to PS. So it hasn't changed our buying habits, the fact that they seemingly want to own the word monster. And they're willing to sue anyone who they can, including everyone from indie developers to Nintendo. They tried to sue the Pokemon company for using the word monster.
And Capcom as well.
Yeah.
Luckily, from what I'm reading, they've all been throughout. But this just seems like they've got, kind of ChatGPT is the big kind of news item at the moment. It feels like they have a flawed AI system which is automatically submitting kind of lawsuits for any kind of time it recognizes the word monster out in the ether, and it's just a weird one.
Do you think it's a marketing thing?
I mean, potentially, because it does generate stories. Monster's obviously quite associated with gaming. It's one of those things you see on the adverts. It's like gamer juice, isn't it? Everyone who drinks Monster's a gamer, hardcore, stays up late at night. Ugh. But the reality is, it's a brand trying to sue brands for using the term monster, which is a word that's existed for hundreds of years, and somehow, because they stick it on a can of sugary juice, they just think, because if you recall, Richie, Immortals Phoenix Rising, before that was previously known as Gods and Monsters, and the name got changed, and Ubisoft said it was down to a change of direction or something, but at the same time there was loads of rumours it was Monster Energy Drink suing them. So they thought, rather than go through that, we'll just change it. But Monster's a word that's been used synonymous. It's just a common practice word. It's not a brand that you can copyright. And on all fairness, it's a word.
It's just when you look into the detail of it, so they're trying to sue Glowstick, the developer, because their game Dark Deception Monsters and Mortals can somehow be confused with an energy drink.
But this just isn't how trademarks work. Trademarks work, you kind of trademark against a category. So yeah, a drink that comes out called Monsters and Demons Energy Drink. Maybe, yeah. I can see the loose logic there, but Resident Evil 4 Monsters, what?
They
get carried away with it.
Green colouring in the logo as well, because black and...
You know what else is in copyright? Colours, they're around. You can't just go, that green is our green, and then just get it forever. I mean, I know you can to a certain Pantone level.
Who else uses a black and neon green colour scheme? Xbox.
For a company called Glowstick.
Yeah, it's...
I felt bad when it was
everything in the
indie.
90s used that.
When it was an indie company, I felt really bad for them. And then as the article unfolded as the week went on and they decided to go for even bigger companies, I thought, you're just getting stupid now, because they went for the Pokemon company. My guess is for the term Pocket Monsters.
Yeah.
Except for Pokemon predates Monster Energy Drink by a decade, right? If not more. So how can you retrospectively sue something that existed before your brand? You idiots.
If some sort of beverage called Monster or something very similar, fair enough, protect your IP. I'm not against IP protection, but when it's a completely different industry, you can't just copyright a single word in the bloody dictionary that existed more than 1,000 years before you.
The only string of logic that kind of I can think of is that, in trademark law, you have to be, if you aren't seen to be protecting your, kind of trademark or copyright, eventually it will expire. So, you do have to do certain things to, against, blatant copiers or whatever. A company that brings out, a Red Bull energy drink, for example, Red Bull has to sue them, or you can be seen to be consenting through inaction.
Pink Moose energy drink.
But that comes back to operating in the same field.
Yeah, but so I don't know what kind of cereal box law degree person is thinking the need to do this type of shit to fulfill that.
Copyright's so funny.
It must be a lot.
There is so many nuances, and we've seen it in the UK, haven't we? When it's like Colin the Caterpillar chocolate birthday cake is going to war from Marks and Spencer's going to war with Aldi over their chocolate caterpillar cake because obviously they look the same. It's a chocolate log cake with a caterpillar's face on the front. How many variations and differences can you have with that? Just like energy drink, it's sugar water and you stick it in a colourful can. If it tastes nice, people drink it. But it just makes me laugh. And obviously none of these lawsuits will really go past, especially for Pokemon and Capcom. They've got enough money in the bank and decent lawyers to do it. But I do feel bad when they go after these smaller indie teams who maybe are only one or two people who have no lawyers and have very limited funds
to stand up for themselves.
Exactly. And then, like, fair is fair. Unfortunately, the capitalism, the richer companies probably going to just ground them in the ground where the fees alone mean they can't keep up with the court summons. And
it can be very scary to get like a letter like that on like a very nice like thick GSM piece of paper, and it's like got like TBL
See you in
Lord
court.
or whatever. Yeah, and like it can like sometimes that works, just sending someone a letter, and a lot of indie companies will just fall over because they don't want the chew.
It's like with parking fines, right? They send you a scary letter saying, pay it now and you'll pay less, you'll pay half the amount, and everyone goes, oh shit, I'll pay the £30, whereas realistically, you probably were allowed to park there.
Yeah, I don't know. And the realistic thing of this is, the reason why I wonder, is this just a marketing thing? Because even though Monster are basically coming across as the bad guy in this, Chris is currently drinking a can of Monster, and I've already had one today. Both of us knowing about the story. It hasn't changed our purchasing habits, and if you extrapolate that, they've now effectively got 10 minutes out of us talking about them, like on a podcast, and hasn't impacted our purchasing habits.
I mean, I still think lesser of them. So if they want that's their brand image to be, then that's on them. But
the reality is, you're still going to buy Mango Loco.
Yeah, but I still think they're a shit company. So it's that perception of like, I'd rather be a good company that makes good drinks than a good drinks.
I would, but
shit image.
They seemingly don't care. Like, otherwise they wouldn't be doing this.
Maybe they're hoping to just like win their lawsuit over Pokemon and then scrape them for millions and millions and millions, and then we'll see Pikachu on a can one day having like Pika juice.
Do you think they just have a lawyer on retainer who gets bored and just picks a random company and just goes, we'll sue them?
Literally just searches the word monster and goes, let's see. It's who have we got? Is it Stan? Who's the one who did Dracula? Was it Stan Frankenstein? I think he broke.
It's like the equivalent of like a middle manager in like a company whose job it really realistically probably doesn't need to exist, so it finds things to do to make sure that he's important. But this time it's a legal team.
Like a job justification.
Yeah, we have to sue people to justify our existence.
That's the one. Bram Stoker, Dracula. He used the word monster in Dracula in 1897. I'm going to sue him for using the word monster over 100 years prior to our drink existing.
Sounds fair.
Yeah. Either way, I for one will not be drinking another can of Monster for the rest of today, at least.
I for one also will not drink another can of Monster today because I don't have any left.
Good to know we're unified on this.
Yeah. For at least today, we will protest by not buying more cans of Monster.
The height of instant activism. We will do something that does not affect our general day-to-day habits.
Yeah.
Like, people should like, subscribe, and share.
They should, because that's all we have time for this week. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure you've liked the video, subscribe to the channel or your podcast feed of choice with notifications switched on. We have a Discord server, so you can see how the rant unfolded late last night about Monster in our Discord server. And if you're a member, you can get early access to some shows, such as Talking the PS and me taking on Maggie, the Fell Omen. Fell Omen? I think that was his name. Either way, there's a Elden Ring members exclusive video up now for you. Thank you very much for watching. My name's been Richie.
I've been Chris.
And I've been Rob.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.